by meeting by the Chief Executive. The Chief Executive will first say a few words and then we'll take questions from the floor. As usual, please limit yourself to 2 questions each. Now I'll hand over to the Acting Chief Executive. Good morning, members of the public and the media. There are 2 issues that I would like to talk to you about. The first one, last week, we have seen 2 good events happening in Hong Kong. First, we launched the Hello Hong Kong, which is a major global publicity campaign. We wanted to bring people from all over the world, including the mainland, to Hong Kong, so we could relaunch our economy. On Friday, we announced that we would start the full resumption of normal travel with the mainland on the 6th of February. We sent out a clear message to the world that is Hong Kong is back on the international stage. And also, we have resumed full normal travel with the mainland. So we would like to enhance our unique advantages on connecting with the world. The Chief Executive is now leading a delegation on a visit to the Middle East, and we've been receiving good news. He has assigned a number of memoranda of understandings and cooperation agreement with these countries, and I believe that would help our economy much. On resumption of normal travel, it started yesterday at the land, sea, and air port BCPs, including the new BCPs, boundary control points, that is the Lok Ba Chau, Lan Tong, Hang Yuen Wei BCP. So I visited these BCPs and I saw that operation was smooth, and those going through the BCPs found everything was in good order. Now I'd like to share with you some figures on arrivals and departures. Yesterday, 280,000 people passed through the BCPs. It's about half were arrivals and half were departures. 220,000 took the land BCPs. Again, half were arrivals, half were departures. And most used land BCP, Lo Wu control point, 64,000 people. Lok Ma Chau Spur line BCP, 54,000. Hong Kong Joy Macau Bridge BCP, 33,000. Shenzhen Bay BCP, 30,000. With the Reference Policy Bureau and colleagues of the discipline forces, I visited the BCPs, and different directors of bureau or deputy undersecretaries and heads of discipline services visited BCPs to observe the operation. And then the Hong Kong Tourism Board also gave out gift packs to welcome travelers to Hong Kong. Now that's the situation yesterday when we resumed full travel with the mainland. But of course, we must still monitor closely the situation. We believe the biggest challenges would be on Saturdays and Sundays, because weekends usually there are more people traveling across the boundary. And so for colleagues in charge of transportation, including public transport, we have asked them to plan better for transport support services. And also we must also offer assistance to travelers. For example, some travelers may not have completed the health declaration form for the mainland, and so we would send staff to help them. We want to help people to address all these issues so that there will be smooth clearance across the boundary. Starting from tomorrow, the 8th of February, cross-boundary students will be coming back to school. So we have made special arrangement at the BCPs. Now, for the first phase, starting tomorrow on the 8th of February, we'll talk about secondary students. They are older, so there will be special counters for them. Hopefully, that will help them to cross the boundary. And then on the 22nd of February, primary school and kindergarten students will also start to come back to Hong Kong for classes. We have made all the necessary preparation for school bus services and so on. Hopefully, we will there will be smooth entry and exits for the cross-boundary students. The second question, light public housing. There's been much discussion in the community about light public housing. Perhaps here I could give you more information about what our considerations are. Now, in our plan, in the next decade, there should be sufficient supply of public housing to meet the demands. However, there's a lead time for construction, and also, some sites may not yet be available. So that's why most of the public housing production will be completed in the second 5-year period. In the first 5-year period, we'll be seeing fewer units being completed. So given the situation, the government would very much like to address the housing needs of members of the public sooner. So under the circumstance, we have launched the light public housing project. And we have said time and again, well, these are sites planned with planning for some purposes, but then the development is not starting yet. So that's why we're using these sites for producing light public housing, so people could get housed sooner. Usually we only use these sites for about 5 years, and then the sites will be returned or surrendered again for the originally intended purposes. Now, some of these sites are in the urban areas and some in the new territories. Of course, we're fully aware of public concerns about the public transport arrangements for these places. And I can assure you that government will make sure there is proper transport support services, that there will be no congestion, and there will be no situation of insufficient public transport services. And then some are concerned that property prices may be affected as a result. Yes, we know that there are different considerations for every situation and every issue. But then at the same time, we hope you appreciate there are people who are inadequately housed in subdivided units. They need help from the government urgently. And sometimes their voices may not be heard effectively. So we are just trying to help them. I'm sure if we all share this concern and we are all prepared to help them address their housing needs, then I'm sure we'll be able to address the various corresponding measures issues. Now, the Housing Bureau will continue to give explanation to the public and the Legislative Council on the various issues. On the part of the government, we really hope to address the housing needs of residents. So don't just focus on the cost of light public housing. Now we have we'll be having about 30,000 light public housing units, and we're just charging $1,000 or $2,000 of rent per month. And then for these, for households who are now living in subdivided units, they may be paying $5,000, $6,000, even $7,000 or $8,000 a month. And the housing condition will cost improvement, and we're able to save money. Now, we're talking about saving a few $1,000s a month, and that is very important for the households. And of course, we care very much about children. And I take that issue particularly to heart. So if we compare light public housing with subdivided units, light public housing definitely has a much better housing condition, and definitely that would help the development of children. So we're talking about the important social benefits, and that they cannot be measured by in dollar terms, really. So that's why I hope very much members of the public and the Legislative Council would appreciate this. Please give us support for the light public housing project. This is a major project for the community, and this is a project that will help address the urgent housing needs of some in the community. And we are talking about 30,000 units that may help to house 100,000 people. And we're just talking about a few years. After that, we have stressed time and again that this light public housing, which is temporary in nature, would be removed, and the sites will be returned for their originally intended purposes for development. So we just want to help those with housing needs to be housed sooner by a few years, and this is good deed for everybody in the community. So please help, try to help people in the community and support this project. That's what I'd like to say. Are there any questions? So the floor is open to questions. Please first raise your hands, and when you are asked to speak, please use the microphone and identify the organization you represent. And please do limit yourself to 2 questions. Thank you. To the right, at the back of the one in blue, please.
Good morning, I'm from Now TV. I would like to ask about the resumption of normal travel. Now that people have to make health declarations and have to apply for a black code, is it a measure suggested by the mainland government or the Hong Kong government? I would also like to ask about light public housing project. I understand that the government will return the sites in 7 years, but would it affect the positioning of developing a central business district to there? Thank you for your question. Regarding health declaration procedure, we call it black code. It is a requirement from the mainland government. We understand that people have to make health declaration through the mobile apps. It may not be very convenient for elderly people. On this issue, we have deployed a lot of staff, especially in the Lo Wu port, to help elderly people or those who do not know how to use mobile phones to make health declarations. Our purpose is to offer help to them to complete such procedures so that they don't have to do it when they get to the mainland. Also, it can avoid queues at the mainland port or cause any chaos. Such arrangements was implemented smoothly, and we spent about 3 to 4 minutes to help each elderly person, to help them fill out the forms, to make the immigration clearance more easily for them. We also did some publicity work and reminded them of the arrangement. I urge people who have to visit the mainland to observe this requirement. If you do not know how to fill out the forms, you may ask your families or relatives. Then it will ensure smooth immigration clearance. If not, you'll also get help from our staff at the boundary control points. Yesterday, some of the people did not fill out the forms. For those people, officials at the mainland side were very kind and helped them fill out the forms and did not send them back. There were no such situations. I would like to stress that we want to ensure smooth immigration clearance. So we ask people to fill out the forms beforehand. We will talk to the mainland authorities to see if we can enhance or even cancel this arrangement. Well, the mainland authorities made this rule, and there has to be a reason for that. hopefully we'll be able to reach a consensus to ensure smooth immigration clearance in the future. I would like to take this opportunity to thank members of the public in Hong Kong and also the relevant government departments. Starting from the 8th of January, we launched the first phase of resumption of normal free travel, and until yesterday, there was less than a month's time for us to complete the first phase and the full resumption of normal travel. In general, the transportation arrangement and everything was implemented smoothly. I pledge that we will continue to follow up on these measures to ensure smooth immigration clearance for travelers. On light public housing, I mentioned that we will borrow these sites for 5 years. After the 5 years' time, we will return the sites for their original purposes, be it for commercial development, residential development, or other purposes. We will not change the plans. So this is a temporary use that is for the light public housing development. We hope the general public will understand this. I understand that people all have different concerns. But as I mentioned, this project will help over 100,000 citizens and address their desperate housing needs. So I think it's worth it for us to launch this project. We got criticisms from time to time. Hong Kong is an international and advanced city. How come a lot of people are still living in poor conditions? So the Hong Kong government is making an important step now. While we make this important step, we need the support and understanding of the general public. There are positive sides to this project, but there may also be some inconveniences caused. We strive to minimize the inconvenience brought by the project. I hope that we can all understand each other and offer help to each other to help people in need. Time is limited. We'll take the last question. The lady at the back. I'm from TVB. I would like to ask about the travel arrangement yesterday. The Liantang port was not popular yesterday. And on Black Code, would you solve the health declaration problem by weekend, as we are going to see more travelers during weekend, and there may be congestion at the boundary control points? And on community testing centers, some contractors said that the contracts will finish by the end of February. On reducing the number of community testing centers, does the government have any plans? How many testing centers will you keep, and also will it affect the testing fees for citizens? Thank you for your question. I used to work in the immigration department. I saw the commissioning of a lot of boundary control points. Usually, when the ports were first commissioned, there were fewer people using these ports. Reason for that was that people were not familiar with the boundary control points at the beginning. But once they see the advantages of using these ports, we'll get more travelers there. I believe that Liantang Port is one of these examples. The advantage of using Liantang Port is that if you drive private cars, there are parking spaces and you can go through the port immediately. In terms of cost, is cheaper than going through the Lo Wu port. And people living there, it's very convenient for them to use the Liantang port. So I believe that the Liantang Henyun Wai port will be one of the very popular boundary control points in the future. On the black code arrangement, we will continue to liaise with the mainland authorities to see how we can simplify the procedures or even cancel the arrangement. But as mentioned, there is a reason for the mainland authorities to make such requirements. I cannot promise or tell you when we'll be able to cancel the arrangement. We will deploy a lot of staff to help elderly people to fill out the forms, and we'll keep reminding people to do that. Also, we will do more publicity work because a lot of people did not know that they have to fill out such forms before they get to the boundary control points. Hopefully, media friends will help us promote this so that people know that they have to fill out the forms before they arrive at the boundary control points. Otherwise, there may be congestion problems. So hopefully media friends will offer your help. On community testing centers, we are currently reviewing the pandemic situation. We have relaxed a lot of social distancing measures. However, we haven't seen the end of COVID yet. At least the World Health Organization hasn't declared an end to COVID. So we have to keep some community testing centers for now. As to how we're going to repurpose the community testing centers, we are making plans now. While we haven't seen the end to the pandemic, we are not going to close all the centers right away, but we'll reduce the number step by step. This is what we will do in the near future. Thank you all.